They would hold the baby by the leg, by the foot, and then smash them against the tree. And they kill hundreds of babies each day, just to free the mother to go to work. I was born in Cambodia and live in the capital, Phnom Penh. I had quite a relatively privileged upbringing, a comfortable home to live in and food to eat, good education.
And what did your parents do?
My father was the commandant of the police for that region of the country, and my mother had been a very successful businesswoman. I was a teacher at a high school, teaching French and English, and then later got married with 2 daughters.
And I know it's incredibly complex, but are you able to kind of explain the political situation in Cambodia when you were growing up?
Well, when I was young, the country was a peaceful country. Until one day, we saw on the news saying that the Americans started to bomb villages along the Cambodian-Vietnamese border. And then, from then on, we could hear the B-52 bombing along the border. To begin with, it was quite far away, but it became nearer and nearer that it rattled the window pane and even, move. We feel the impact of the bomb on the ground as well.
And what was the Khmer Rouge? What was their predominant ideology? What were they wanting to achieve?
Well, the Khmer Rouge was led by the Marxist Pol Pot. And their aim is to establish equality between the people. By trying to do that, they demolish money, position, and any connection with the Western world. In other words, they bring Cambodia to what they call year zero. And then one day, which was the 17th of April 1975, the Khmer Rouge managed to defeat the government army and took over the country. After the Khmer Rouge took over the country, the whole country was very happy. We happily welcomed the Khmer Rouge because we thought, thanks God, at long last the civil war finished. However, that euphoria was short-lived. We were forced at gunpoint by the Khmer Rouge to leave our home. Millions of people were forced out of their home and walk out, fill every single road out of the city. And just imagine the chaos. The children were crying. The sick people were, struggling to walk out under the April burning sun. Pregnant women were delivering baby along the road, crying for help. Elderly people and infirm people, were left weeping along the road because their family were no longer be able to carry them along.
And your family and your parents, did you know where they were?
Before the Khmer Rouge took over the country, my father was colonel in the army, leading a regiment, an army regiment protecting the outskirts of Phnom Penh. After the Khmer Rouge took control, they asked everybody high-ranking in the army And anybody with high ranking, like, I mentioned before, doctor, engineer, royalty and everything, to come to one place so they can get them to help to rebuild the country. And ever since then, I never seen my father, so we can just presume that he was killed.
I'm sorry.
And my mother, who was with me, because she was at the hospital, she had cataract and was having an operation at the hospital, and she was chased out of the hospital with her eyes still bleeding. You see the wound was still open. And so she eventually became blind from that wound because there's no medicine, no cure, no treatment, nothing. So she went blind. So she was with me all the time. So I had to look after my mother as well as my two daughters. And just before the fall of Cambodia to the Khmer Rouge, my husband left to go to Paris. So he was in Paris while we were suffering, at home in Cambodia. At that time, while we were walking out, we would walk past or walk around corpses, which have been decomposed with the very hot sun. It was an aimless, horrible time for us.
Did you understand what was happening?
At that time, we didn't know what was happening, because when they chased us out of our house, they said only for 2 or 3 days, just to give them time to get rid of the American imperialist soldier. But when time goes on, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month, many weeks going on, nobody tell us. The only thing that we know how to do is just have to move forward with the gun behind us. They would shoot into the air, and we were just so frightened and just run, because otherwise people wouldn't be able to walk, in the burning sun, lots of water and lots of food. So when we asked them, they just said, it's not for you to know, just do what you are told to do. The Khmer Rouge would shoot anybody who disobeyed them. Over time, we learned to respect them. Eventually, after about a month, everybody were allowed to stop wherever they were. And luckily, we stopped at a place which was the birthplace of my mother. So we were happy that they stopped us there. However, our hope and our joy stopped there and there when the Khmer Rouge came and asked us to go and work. So, and change our clothes. We were, all of us, were given black clothes, all black, like a pyjama, like loose trousers and long sleeve like that, and go and work in the field. But then it was a dry season, because April. So we were sent to work digging a water reservoir or irrigation canal or building dam, or to clear up forests for planting fruit trees.
And what were the conditions like?
You can imagine how hard it would be, because we were not allowed to wear shoes. They told us that wearing shoe is not a good citizen. Wearing shoe is imperialist, is capitalism. If you can try to walk without shoe, let alone walking in the forest with the thorn, with broken branches, with all the gravel and everything, it was utterly painful. That one thing. And then another thing, we only were given, then it was rice with salt to eat. And we had to work about 12 hours a day. They would wake us up we would have to leave home at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, get up at 4, cook rice, and pack our meager lunch to go and work. And then wouldn't be allowed to be back home until 6 o'clock. So it's a shock to our system, it's a shock to our soul to be forced to do something and to live in that condition.
And your daughters, were they being forced to work as well?
My two daughters, the older one was 5 or 6 years old, and the younger one was 1 year and a half. And them, well, a year and a half is allowed because she was ill, but these 5 years old one were forced to work as well. She had to go and with a basket in her hand collecting dung, cow dung, to make fertilizer for the field, to weed the vegetable farm, and to feed all the farm animals.
As a mother, how did that feel?
Well, you just feel helpless. But at the same time, you realize there's nothing you can do. If you say a word wrong and if you protest it, you would be killed or your child would be killed. And there was an incident that one day they caught my daughter eating cucumber while she was weeding cucumber field farm. And they tied her to a tree and they were beating her with a club. And I was there because they sent somebody for me. And you can imagine the excruciating pain of a mother that was standing there and was not capable to protect your own daughter. And hearing her screaming out, "Mommy, help me, Mommy, help me." You could do nothing to help. Sorry, up till now, remember that scene, that excruciating pain come back to me.
I'm sorry, Var, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. Do you need a minute?
It's okay.
You okay?
It's okay, that's right. Yeah, there's a lot of people were planning, in those few months, there were a lot of people planning to escape, and there's a lot of people got killed, got caught, because there is no way you can escape, because you are just like in a prison, a huge, enormous prison without wall. They control you everything. If you don't go to work, they either stop giving you rice to eat or kill you. And there's no law. Law is their word. If they say that you are against what they call Angka. Angka means their authority body. If you say something and they want to kill you, they say you are against the Angka. And that is enough reason to kill you. And people, to begin with, for the first few months or first year, they still don't realize how life could be very fragile under the Khmer Rouge.
Do you think people were loyal to the Khmer Rouge, or do you think they were terrified of them? Nobody apart from their own people, nobody were loyal to the Khmer Rouge. They agree with them, they praise them, I do it myself, just to survive. You wouldn't dare to say a word wrong. If you say a word wrong, and not just to other people around you, even if you go to sleep, their spy would be hiding under your bed. What tactics of intimidation did the guards use?
If somebody said something wrong or disobeyed them, they would get that person tied up, blindfolded, and parade the person around the village, just as an act of warning us or intimidating us or get us to respect their order. As I mentioned before, we had to work 12 hours a day, and yet as exhausted as we were forced to go and attend their communist indoctrination sessions, which last, sometimes till 10 o'clock, and we had to get up again at 3 o'clock to go to the field. Another thing is, they would say to you, they have a slogan, which they repeat it all the time. Their slogan is worse. We gain nothing from keeping you, and we lose nothing from killing you. That is their slogan, and that was what they were doing. After the slave laboring, the starvation, would come the terror. They would kill anybody, as I mentioned before, who doesn't contribute, such as babies, elderly people, sick people, or people who still cannot accept their way of their regime, such as, intellectual people, educated people, or people whom they consider their enemy before, like soldier or police. And for us normal people who didn't belong to those groups, only if you have a white mark from wearing a wristwatch, they thought you were rich before. You could get killed from that. Or from just wearing reading glasses. You are intellectual, that is why you wear glasses. And babies, what did baby do wrong? Because baby stopped, their mother from going to work. So baby got killed. They would hold the baby by the leg, by the foot, and then smash them against the tree. And they kill hundreds of babies each day, just to free the mother to go to work. To me, being a city person and being a teacher and from a family, kind of middle-class family, I would be the first target if they find out about who I am. So every day, I watch my back all the time in every step of the way, not to say anything, and then try to learn the countryside people accent and try to behave in a peasant way in order to survive. One day, I went out and bought rice with the gold that I had with me, and then the lady under her house I stayed reported to the chief of the village, and they called me there, and I saw a big stick there and a rope there. In my body, I felt like I don't have bone, I don't have muscle. I was just collapsed on the ground. Just know that I'm going to be killed. However, because I am a Christian, I believe in God, so I keep praying, keep thinking of my daughters, who's going to look after them. Keep praying. And then somebody came in, whispered to the chief of the village, and he said, okay, we reviewed your case, pointed at me, later. Now go to work. Imagine the relief I have.
Was that something that most people went through, experiences like that?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do, but because they don't kill the people in front of you. They may blindfold them, tie them, and parade them for us to see, but they take them to what I said, mass grave, and then just hit them with the back of the hose, and then just kick them into the grave. And some people were buried when they're still alive, you see. And I'm talking about mass grave. There are thousands of mass graves across the country. There were 917 mass graves just around the city alone. That is why Cambodia at that time was called the killing field. It's just everywhere you go to, you see the mass grave. And the Khmer Rouge regime is dominating by killing.
killing and killing. That is the only way that they can control us, killing and let us starve.
And how long in total were you living in this village?
We were living in this village for quite a long time, for a year and a half out of the 4 years of the Khmer Rouge range of terror. And then I don't know why they decided to send us all to Bat Dam Bong. Bat Dam Bong is the name of a city in the north of Phnom Penh. And to do that, they packed us in a train, thousands of us in one train. And because of that, the train goes very slowly. It took the train 3 days to travel 250 kilometers. 3 days. And we were packed in each carriage like a sardine, and not a lying down sardine, it's a standing up sardine. You can imagine sleep standing. And they stop twice a day for us to get out of the train and looking for firewood to cook rice. When we come back up on the train one night, people were ill, they vomited, it's just hell. One person died, and there was nowhere, no one to get help. The Khmer was there, not there to help you. The train went forward. So the family had no choice but to throw the body of their loved one through the window. So the train eventually took us to Bat Dam Bong, and Bat Dam Bong is a town, a city, but the second city of Cambodia, were richer, and so we were given for the first time rice to eat, rice, not rice porridge to eat. By then, the Khmer Rouge their regime seemed to settle down, and so they kind of accepted boys and girls to have group wedding, arranged group wedding. They just put you together, this boy with this girl, you see, and then, sort of give some food for us as a villager to eat. So that was heaven. That was heaven. However, because they do that, they set up, they have another law that if you are boy and girl, if you committed fornication, is that the word? Yeah, fornication, you will be killed, because that's not the Khmer Rouge. To prove to us that they really meant us, one night, they asked everybody from our village, from neighboring villages to come for a big meeting. So when we arrived to the meeting, in the middle of the field, high up, we saw 2 people, 1 girl, 1 boy, tied together against that pole, blindfolded. And they start lecturing us that these two people didn't follow the Angkar or whatever committed crime against the Angkar law and everything. So they're going to be destroyed. And the word destroy, I said, how do you destroy them? So we came home in the morning. The people who stayed there until the end, we slashed the victim chest and took their liver out to eat. When you, after a while in that situation, to begin with, you cry. And then after crying, you try to survive. And then after you survive, you try to think about your future, your children's future. There was no answer to any of them. So you continue crying, but by that time, there's no tear left to cry.
And was the lifestyle at the second village that you went to in Battambang, was it the same as what you were doing in the first place? Just labouring?
Yeah, just labouring, nothing else. And in this village, I must say that, I feel a bit guilty to have a little bit slightly better life than most of the new people. So in this village, I kind of seeing people wearing hat. They wear hat made from palm tree leaf. And over the years, it gets so tatty because nobody know how to sew it. And even if they know it, they probably don't say it. And I sort of spotted it, and I just said that, your hat is tatty. If you could get me the palm leaf, I can sew it to the Khmer Rouge. And they said, really? Do you know how to use it? Do it to sew it? I said, yes. And when I do it, I did it. And I put initial, their name on that, and flower for the girls and everything. And it was a real hit. So everybody wanted to be friend. Every Khmer Rouge wanted to be friend with me so I can sew hat for them. And sometimes they would give me something to eat as well. So life wasn't as bad there in the new village. I must say, had it not been for the Vietnamese invasion of Cambodia, we would have still be there, have been there, and suffering from starvation and the atrocity of the Khmer Rouge. But because of the Khmer Rouge war with the Vietnamese, the Khmer Rouge themselves ran away, tried to hide and everything. And the Vietnamese came into the village where I was with my mother and my daughter. And my mother was very ill, and because I spoke French, so I decided to go to the Vietnamese army to ask for medicine. And that was not without being seen. And so the Khmer Rouge thought I was the Vietnamese spy, so they were looking for me to be killed. However, luckily for me, someone came to me one day, showed me a picture, a photo of a lady with two daughters and an older lady next to her, and said, was it your photo? I said, why? He said, there was a former pilot who now lives in Thailand. Asked him to come into Cambodia to look for his family. And then in the picture is his wife, and coincidentally, she looks like me. And his auntie, who is blind, and my mother happened to be blind. And that is why they thought it was me, and the children was roughly the same age, two girls as well. And I said to them, no, it wasn't me. I said, don't you want to escape? And then I talked to my mother about it, and my mother said, if you stay, they might find you, the Khmer Rouge might find you and might kill you anyway. So if you go, and if they were Khmer Rouge, why do they have to try to get you out of the village? They found you now, they can just, pull you out of the house and kill you. So I decided to go with that man. And so he took the whole of his family with us. So it's about, I don't know how many dozen of people walking across the jungle. And I don't think without him, anybody can cross that jungle. Because every now and then, there were dead leaves there. And if you don't know, it's a hole, a big, that the Khmer Rouge dug it to catch the people who ran away when they were in power. And you step on it, underneath were bamboo spike. And then you step in it, you fall, but on top is just sort of grass, dry grass, and you fall into that trap and you got killed there. And so that man know, because he's a former Khmer Rouge, know where to walk, and then from time to time we would hear the noise of the wild animal. And he said to us, and he would make the noise back. And we thought, why? That's what the Khmer Rouge, the code that the Khmer Rouge communicate with each other. So he communicate back that he was one of them. That is why they don't come and try to catch us. And that was the journey.
How did you feel arriving in England?
I was welcomed by a Christian organization. So they gave me a room. Luckily, there were a lot of kind people, who helped me. Some giving my clothes, shoes for the kid, and, some food. And I came, to apartment that it was ready for me to move in. It's only one room for the three of us to sleep there, but full of food. And you can imagine, we were just like heaven, having a proper bed to sleep in, and food. We were so happy. And then there were some kind people, help my kid to go to school and help them because they, to do homework and everything, and then, all the rest. So just to help us to rebuild our life in England.
How many years was this after the Khmer Rouge first evacuated you from Phnom Penh?
That was 4 years. 4 years. After that we, escaped and then come to England. So 4 years.
You mentioned your first husband at the beginning who was in France. Did you find out what happened?
My husband went back, being tricked by the Khmer Rouge with other people, went back to Cambodia and were put in that Tul Slang, the S21 prison, to be interrogated and tortured, and eventually let him die a very painful death.
And looking back all these years later, how do you feel when you speak about what you went through?
As you said earlier, sometimes tears still coming out. It's not very easy to get rid of it. I remember the first year I was here, I had nightmare very often. And I had to wake up and had to convince myself, calm down, you are in England, you're not there. Okay, and because eventually I got married and have a happy family and everything, although the nightmare still happening, but it's once in a while, not very often.
What was the impact of the genocide on Cambodia's population?
The Cambodia population is old. We only have this generation, older generation, and then there is nothing in between. We got very, older people in this flare, and then there's nothing in between, hardly anything in between, and then younger one. Yeah, very younger one. So there's a big gap between the generation of the Khmer Rouge and then between the people who were born later. For the older generation who suffer, who are victims of the Khmer Rouge, they were so traumatized by the atrocity and the terror and everything. They don't want to talk about it because to them it brings back bring back bad memory that could make them continue suffering. So they rather try to forget about it and get on with life. Because of that, some young people who heard hardly anything about it, and some never heard about it, don't believe. When we told them about, what the Khmer Rouge did to us, they said, no, don't believe it. Never someone treat their own people to that extent, never. You exaggerated it. It is very important that younger generation
made aware of those atrocities of genocide, of past genocide all over the world. To learn about it, to know that it really happened, and to try to prevent it from happening again, to have a better future for themselves and for the younger generation.
The bodies of people being fed to these dogs and dog eating them and sitting, being frightened, knowing that if they see me, they will, bite me. I was so terrified.